Hey, what's up, everybody? Listen, if you have not heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's free. Yeah, I got your attention now, right? Number two, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Number three, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Number four, you can make money from your podcast. That's right. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum viewership. Number five, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So right now, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, everybody? My name is Cliff, and you are listening to the What Now Podcast. That's right, the What Now Podcast, where we, through conversation, discuss ways that we can effectively address life's most difficult moments. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's episode.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the What Now podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the What Now Podcast. That's right, the What Now Podcast. My name is Clifton Pettyjohn, and for the sake of this podcast, you can just call me Cliff. All right, so let's get right into the topic at hand on tonight, all right? So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about fear, all right? Now, some of you saw the title, and you probably thought that I was going to use the F word, but that's not the exact F word that I'm going to use. However, to me, we do have to develop that mindset when it comes to fear. And I don't even want to get ahead of myself. Okay, so let's talk about my life. My life has been laced with fear. For as early as I can remember in life, I always was fearful and apprehensive about anything that challenged me beyond my place of comfort. Here's the crazy thing about my place of comfort. My place of comfort was very little. It was very little. I was comfortable with a lot. I was uncomfortable or more uncomfortable with a lot of things than I was comfortable. And whenever fear crept in, I didn't like to be challenged. And y'all have to understand the levels of fear that I had. I had fear of public speaking, fear of anything publicly. There's times I suffered with social anxiety so much I would go into a store, and if what I needed was on aisle 10, and I could walk directly to aisle 10, but it was surrounded by a group of people, I would circle all the way around the store, trying to find a way to get to aisle 10 by avoiding the crowd of people. And then if I couldn't avoid the crowd of people, I'd get back in my car and drive to another store and begin the same exercise all over again. I just had such a fear of anxiety. I feared being laughed at. I feared being made fun of. I feared looking stupid before people. I feared being embarrassed. I feared what people would think and what they would say. I feared what they would think and say when I walked away. It was just so much fear in my life. I feared trying certain sports because I felt like I would be embarrassed if I wasn't good. The only sport I was ever good at, to me, was baseball. I was pretty good at basketball when I was younger because I was tall. So, but I never liked basketball because I was forced to play basketball. So I never really liked basketball. But I love baseball. But even in baseball, there were some things that I was not willing to do out of fear. Fear gripped me in sports. Fear gripped me in school. Fear gripped me in extracurricular activities. Fear gripped me when I went to college. Fear gripped me after college. Fear gripped me in my career. Fear gripped me when I became an entrepreneur. Fear gripped me in ministry. I just allowed fear to have so much power and authority and free will in my life because honestly, I was struggling with my self-worth. Honestly, I was struggling with the way that I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I sounded. It was just so much going on in the midst of my life that I just allowed fear to win. And anytime fear would stand in my face, regardless of my size compared to fear, I would always buckle, pack up, and run home. And sometimes I wouldn't even take the time to pack up. I'd just run home. That's how powerful I allow fear to be in my life. But one of the things I had to come to the realization of was if I'm ever going to fulfill my purpose in life and if I'm ever going to walk and be who the Creator designed me to be, then I'm going to have to face fear. I'm going to have to face fear. And one of the sayings I love, and I've heard it repeated a lot throughout this year, is do it scared. And one of the things I had to learn was that the only way that I was going to face fear and conquer fear and destroy fear in my life or destroy the influence that I've allowed it to have in my life was for me to face it head on. So in facing it head on, that meant that I now had to begin to do some of the things that I ran from for years. And can I be honest with you? In doing that, I found out that I was actually great at some things that I was afraid of trying. And then I found out that I wasn't as good at I wasn't good at some of the things that I was afraid of trying. But you know what that also taught me? That if you're not, you can't be great at everything because then there would be no growth. There'd be no measurement of growth. There'd be no measurement of development. There'd be no measurement of maturity. So I had to come to grips with the reality of, so what if I'm not great at it in the beginning? So what if it's a challenge in the beginning? That's simply an opportunity for me to establish a testimony of how I was able to master that which once mastered me. And when I'm talking about mastering that which once mastered me, it was fear. When I realized that fear was just as scared, if not more scared of me, realizing who I was as I was scared of it, once I realized that, I began to understand that I had power and authority over this fear. And then I got to go to the Word of God. The Word of God says very clearly that God has not given us the spirit of fear. He hasn't given that to us. So if He hasn't given that to us, then anything that He has given us is greater than that fear. So I had to begin to exercise my faith in my relationship with God to understand that any fear that I was willing to face, I would conquer. Now, does that mean that fear doesn't try to creep up in my life now? Absolutely not. Sometimes when I stand up to speak before people, sometimes fear tries to grip me. If I have something major that I have to do, if I'm doing sometimes the radio show that I'm doing, and it's crazy because you would think that I wouldn't be fearful because I'm sitting there by myself. But it's just something that's against the norm. I'm about to go on my first cruise, and fear tried to grip me into not even going on this cruise because my mind, and that's another thing. What are you conditioning yourself to believe? And you can go back and listen to that podcast as well. My mind had been trained to believe that something negative was going to happen, so why even go? Instead of realizing, why not go? You never experienced this before. This is going to be a great experience for you. This is an opportunity for you to meet new people. This is an opportunity for you to experience a new culture, and as you experience a new culture, then you begin to grow and develop. And that's what life is all about. It's all about our willingness to grow and develop. But until we get that fear in our spirit, that face fear in our spirit, we will find ourselves limiting ourselves spiritually, naturally, financially, emotionally, geographically, because we will only be willing to operate in a place that we are comfortable at or a place that we can control. And sometimes we just have to learn, and conquering fear and facing fear, you have to be willing to lose yourself in the moment. One of my favorite songs by Eminem, Lose Yourself. You have to get lost in that moment. And as you're lost in that moment, you'll even begin to forget that fear is even present. And I'm going to tell you this. Fear will begin to excuse itself in a place that you are exercising and walking in faith and walking more in what you have been called and created to do. It's not comfortable in those places. The reason why fear hangs around sometimes in our atmosphere is because we have created an environment for fear, not just to be able to function, but some of us, we have nurtured that fear. It's almost as if we created an incubator for fear. And we're allowing that fear to grow because we're feeding it and we're feeding it and we're taking it and we're rocking it and we're rocking it and we're showing it love and we're showing it appreciation and we're calling it self-preservation. We're calling it protecting my feelings, not even realizing that what we're really doing is holding ourselves back from the possibilities of everything that is rightfully ours. So my encouragement to you tonight or today or this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're listening to this podcast is that you grab hold of that facing your fear, that fighting fear, that conquering fear, that understanding that you are greater than what you are fearing. And it's fearing you as well. And when you realize that fear is actually fearing you, you breaking out, you spreading your wings, you flying, you having an aha moment, you coming to the revelation of who you are, you standing and walking in the power and authority that you walk in, you standing in the dominion that you walk in, you'll begin to understand that fear ain't nothing compared to who you were created to be. So my encouragement again, develop that F fear in your spirit. And when I say F fear, I mean face fear. Be blessed.
Can you identify any areas in your life where stagnation is manifesting? Now, I know some of you might say, no, I can't. Well, I want us to look at stagnation for what it really is. Some people have identified stagnation as something that's not growing or that's not producing. I don't believe that's stagnation. To me, stagnation can also be that yes, we're growing, yes, we're producing. However, we're growing and producing in a manner that's disrespectful to the purpose and the greatness that resides inside of us. And listen, we all have areas where we can identify that we could be doing a lot better in. There's greater potential in those areas than we are experiencing. And guess what? I have a tool that will help you begin to experience transformation in those areas of stagnation in your life. And that tool is called From Stagnation to Transformation. That's right. That is my book, From Stagnation to Transformation. So I want you to head over to my website, www.cliftonpettyjohn.com. I want you to hit there. I want you to hit the Transformation tab. There you're going to find a free preview of my book. That's right, a free preview of my book. And I promise you, after you read the preview, you're going to want to invest in your personal transformation through purchasing the book. So again, head over there. Purchase the book. Let me know you purchased it. Here's what I always say, guys. If you purchase the book, you read the book, you apply the principles in your life, and yet you still are stagnant in the areas that you are applying them to, and you're not experiencing any transformation, and you can prove to me that you have applied these principles, I will give you a 100% refund. That's right, a 100% refund. Why? Because I believe in the application of the principles that are outlined in this book. So again, visit www.cliftonpettyjohn.com and purchase your copy of From Stagnation to Transformation.